Hey guys, Adam514 here, and today I'll be making a comparison between every high tier BF109 in speed, climb, roll, turn, and maneuvering energy retention by testing each aircraft. There are a lot of misconceptions about the differences between these BF109s, and hopefully this video will help clear them up. At the end of the video, I'll recap on the results and conclude with which BF109 is the best. First off, let's test the speed of every BF109 between 0 and 9 kilometers of altitude. Tests were done at 0% radiators and with a constant 20-minute fuel weight. As you can see on this sped up footage, I stay a long time at a given altitude to get an accurate reading. The testing for the BF109 K4 took over 30 minutes. Here are the results. On the left, there's the graph of absolute speeds, which shows that in the grand scheme of things, differences in speed between the same aircraft type are small. On the right, the graph is zoomed in. We can see that the K4 is the fastest at every altitude, with the G10 and G14 AS catching up at 7 km and above. The G14 is the second fastest at low altitude, but is by far the slowest at high altitude. The K4 clearly wins in speed. This time climb was tested. Climb tests were done at every kilometer between 0 and 9 kilometers by finding the time it takes to climb 200 meters. For example, for the rate of climb at 1 kilometer, I found the time it took to go from 900 meters to 1100 meters and divided 200 meters by that time to find the climb rate. As usual, the aircraft were loaded with a constant 20-minute fuel weight and used 0% radiators, and all of them climbed at 270 km per hour IAS. Here are the results. On the left is the graph of absolute climb rate, again showing that the difference between BF109 types is relatively small. On the right, the graph is zoomed in. We can see that the K4 has the best climb at low altitude, though the G14 has a slightly higher climb at 4 km. The G10 and the G14 AS have the best climb at altitudes over 6 km, with the G14 being the worst at altitude. Next is roll rate. Roll rate varies with speed and altitude, so a specific speed and altitude was chosen for every test. By finding the time it takes to complete the second roll, you can find the sustained roll rate. Roll rate is really close between every BF109 model. There is a 3-frame difference between the G14 AS and the K4. I declare the roll rates to be essentially equal between the 4 BF109 models. Time to test the sustained turn time and turn radius. Again, every aircraft has a constant 20-minute fuel weight and uses 0% radiators. The sustained turn is reached when thrust equals drag, which implies no change in speed. After the sustained turn is reached, I found the time it takes for the BF109 to make a full turn, using the vehicle as a reference point. It's quite difficult to stay in the sustained turn regime with no altitude and speed changes, so I just turned many times and took the best turn. With the turn time and the turn speed, you can find the turn radius. On the graph on the left, you can see the absolute turn radius for all 4 BF109s. The K4 has the tightest turn, followed by the G14, and the last two are equal. As for turn time, K4 is again the better turning BF109, followed by the G14 and then the last two. If you're wondering how it's possible that the K4, which is the heaviest BF109, has the tightest turn radius, and why it has the lowest sustained speed even though it has the highest power, you have good instincts. Remember the value of 13.4 degrees for the angle of attack of the K4. Here we have the G10 doing the same test, and it has an angle of attack of only 12.4 degrees, which is 1 degree smaller than the K4. This implies that the K4 achieves a higher maximum lift coefficient, which more than compensates for its slightly higher weight. The higher lift coefficient also explains the lower sustained speed of the K4, since the higher the lift coefficient, the higher the induced drag, which more than compensates the extra power. Now if you ask me how the K4 achieves a higher lift coefficient than the other BF109s, I don't know the answer. Last test but not least, the maneuvering energy retention test. This is a measure of how much energy the BF109 loses in a 360-degree turn with a starting speed of 550 km per hour. I put a link in the description for more details regarding this test. By inputting the initial and final speeds and altitudes, you can find the amount of energy the BF109 lost to complete the 360-degree turn. With the turn time, the average turn radius can be found, and it follows the same trend as the sustained turn radius, with the K4 being the tightest turner. With all this information, we can compare all the BF109s to the G14 to see which one loses the most energy. With and without turn time compensation, both G14s lose the least amount of energy, while the K4 loses the most. This can be explained by the higher Oswald coefficient of the G14s, which reduces drag, and by the higher lift coefficient of the K4, which increases drag. The MAR differences are minor though. Here are the final results. The K4 wins in nearly every category, so you should be using the K4 since all 4 BF109s are at the same BR. If you're in a custom event where you aren't allowed to go below 7 km, the G10 and the G14 AS would be better choices than the K4 due to their superior climb at altitude. In random matches, however, the order from best to worst is K4, G10, G14 AS, G14. Let me know which aircraft comparison you would like to see in the future. Thanks for watching!